Umain recommends. Access umain.uk.net. In this Umain Recommends we read a sample of the article, The Everyday Assault of Disabled Women. Amy Kavanagh is as happy as anyone else that the world is opening up, but there is one thing she is not thrilled to be experiencing again. As much as I'm excited to be getting out and socializing again, it comes at a cost, she says. Kavanagh is blind and sexual harassment is as frequent in her everyday life as it is disturbing. I get harassed in public, on the street, in shops, on public transport, in cabs, and even in professional environments. Pre-pandemic, I experienced inappropriate sexual touching at least once a month, she says. While there has been a renewed focus on women's safety since the deaths of Sarah Everard and Sabina Nessa, little attention has been paid to the harassment and violence faced by disabled women. Yet women with a disability are almost twice as likely to have experienced sexual assault, 5%, as women without a disability, 2.8%, according to ONS data for the 2 years to March 2020. This is not an anomaly. In the previous 3 years, the figure was 5.7%. In 2021, a survey of more than 1,000 disabled women carried out by the Trades Union Congress found that 68% had experienced sexual harassment at work. The figures constitute a hidden blight on disabled women's lives. Kavanagh says men often target her under the guise of assistance. A typical experience is that someone offers to help me cross a road and, whether or not I accept, they grab me by the arm and refuse to let go. Often they will use this opportunity to touch my breasts, make inappropriate comments about my sexuality or physical appearance, or ask me personal questions about my body, she says. She is certain that men target her because she is blind. I can't easily identify them, I can't see them coming or know if they are following me or watching me. In response, Kavanagh started a Twitter campaign under the hashtag #JustAskDon'tGrab. There were hundreds of responses, including deaf people sharing how people get their attention with inappropriate touching and wheelchair users being moved without their consent. Ruth Marin, a wheelchair user, shared an experience of a man pushing her, without warning, during a trip to a shopping center. When another woman intervened, he claimed he was just trying to help. While the campaign's message seems clear, Kavanagh says disabled people often face hostility if they don't accept help. This could be verbal abuse, physical violence, or even sexual assault. This is why it's so important to listen to disabled people when you offer help, as we don't know whether your intentions are good or if you are the next person who might hurt or assault us. Katie, a wheelchair user, has also faced harassment and assault in public. She has a 6-month-old daughter, so hasn't been clubbing for a while, but when she did it lurked on every dance floor. Pretty much every time I went out, you'd have someone grab your breasts. That was quite common. She says the groping was people walking past, taking an opportunity. Because I'm sat down, I think it is more anonymous. If she went for a date in a bar, being seated in a booth came with risks, too. People put their hands under my clothes, things that I have not consented to. And, obviously, I am marginally more vulnerable than other women. I can't just quickly get up. If, in a busy venue, she transferred out of her wheelchair into another chair, it created an extra level of vulnerability, as she couldn't get away. When you protest, it feels dangerous, you never know how they're going to react. So you feel like you can't say no. Both women say the problem is reinforced by the ableist narrative that disabled women are not attractive, and therefore won't be on the receiving end of sexual harassment or violence. Kavanagh says this means that, when she talks about harassment, the first reaction I always get is disbelief. People simply can't believe that a blind woman gets groped. Disabled women are desexualized and infantilized, so people don't think we experience anything sexual, including unwanted negative sexual experiences. Katie says she would now report any harassment, but back then I would say, well, this is just what happens. Part of the reason for that was that people would say, well, why are they doing that to you? Because who's going to see you as a sexual being? Anyway, you've probably misinterpreted their behavior, or, you should be grateful. I've had both those things said to me before, by friends. Also, Perceived vulnerability runs through the stories of all the disabled women I speak to. Sarah, not her real name, is autistic and works as a journalist. Asked to describe her experience of sexual harassment, she says, "Where do I even begin? Creepy propositions, overly sexualized comments, being invited into hotel rooms. It is very disheartening," she says. Sarah says the problems can start when people disclose that she is autistic to others without her consent. People take this as, "Oh look, they are vulnerable," she says. Predators can see autistic and other disabled people as not quite people, which makes it easier to justify harassment, if only to themselves. There is often an implicit assumption that these women don't have the intellectual capacity to recognize harassment, or to stop it. Sometimes women find their disabilities are actively used against them, such as hypersensitivity to noise being used to justify a meeting in a hotel room, rather than the lobby. "I also find reading intentions from faces very difficult," Sarah says. Many people, she says, are aware that this is a common feature of autism and manipulate their facial expressions in a deliberate attempt to confuse disabled women about their intentions. Under UK law, discriminatory behaviors are classified in different ways. This includes direct discrimination, treating someone with a protected characteristic less favorably than others; indirect discrimination, putting rules or arrangements in place that apply to everyone, but that put someone with a protected characteristic at an unfair disadvantage; harassment, unwanted behavior linked to a protected characteristic that violates someone's dignity or creates an offensive environment for them; or victimization, treating someone unfairly because they have complained about discrimination or harassment. When an autistic woman finds she has been misled, she can be made to feel this is her fault. "I take safety extremely seriously for this reason," Sarah says. It has made her suspicious and sometimes fearful. For the Paralympian and Waffler strike, it is hard to tell if harassers who make lewd comments about her body target her because she is a wheelchair user, a woman of color, or both. Her experience, she says, differs depending on how I'm wearing my hair. If I want to look very African in the way I do my hair, stuff like that. And I think that, being a woman of color, people push boundaries more, definitely. Disabled women of color are seen as easy targets, she says. While Waffler Strike is confident that she can tell the difference between a man who is genuinely interested in me, with good intentions, and others that take advantage, she worries that less outgoing or younger women may not. Despite the statistics and testimonies from women such as Waffler Strike, Kavanagh, and Sarah, none of the major women's organizations I speak to say they can comment on the particular problems faced by disabled women. Instead, I speak to Dr. Hannah Morgan, a senior lecturer at Lancaster University's Centre for Disability Research. Disabled women face neglect by mainstream women's services and anti-harassment efforts, she says. The impact and legacy of overprotective services prevent disabled women from exploring their sexuality on their own terms, and separate them from the peer networks that build the confidence and knowledge to challenge inappropriate behavior. There is also strong evidence that disabled women have been less likely to be believed or seen as credible witnesses in a prosecution, and the false assumption that disabled women are safe from forms of sexual harassment, because they may deviate from socially constructed norms about beauty and sexual attractiveness. Often, she explains, disabled women have to choose between freedom from harassment and freedom in general. What do you do if you are groped by the taxi driver who represents your only access to the high street, or the barman who puts out a pub's portable ramp for you to meet your friends? Morgan agrees with all the other women to whom I speak. Disabled women are subject to assumptions about their inherent vulnerability and a greater assumption that the perpetrator will get away with it. It can become unbearable, and has real social effects, too. The psycho-emotional impact, or emotional toll, can lead some disabled women to reduce their potential exposure by limiting their social activities or participation in work or education, Morgan says. In a world where inaccessibility and ableist attitudes keep disabled people out of society, sexual harassment is one more horrible reason to just stay at home. Did you like this recommendation? Hit the like button and read it in full by clicking on the link provided in this video description. All citations recommended here are solely for educational purposes. Our aim is to provide the community with access to the educational inclusive materials of excellency we come across. Yours included. If you hold the copyright of any video or article cited here, or you think they should not be available on our channel, please let us know and we'll remove them at your discretion.